Star Wars.
The Final Frontier.
This was a really good Star Wars movie.
It is my favorite Star Wars movie now.
Yeah.
We have seen it twice.
We've seen it twice. I didn't want to record this review after the first viewing because I knew I would be blinded by hype. Because I was extremely hype during the first time we watched this.
Mm-hmm. I definitely felt like I wanted a second watch just to analyze.
Mm-hmm.
Once to enjoy, a second to analyze, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I saw it a second time. So you said it's your favorite?
It is my favorite Star Wars film. I can say that. There's a lot of negative reviews out there.
This movie's doing really well with critics, but it's on Rotten Tomatoes audience score. It has a 57%, which for a movie to have a lower rating with the audience score is kind of rare to begin with, but for it to be that dramatic, it's yeah.
A lot of the reviews, of course,
weird.
They didn't explain the issues. They mentioned plot holes without actually. They mentioned the word plot holes. They never mentioned any of the plot holes.
Yeah, they didn't give specific examples of plot holes.
Rewatching it, there was nothing in the story was airtight almost.
Yeah, I didn't notice any plot holes.
It was. In fact, I was like, you know what? This is less plot holes than almost any other movie I've seen lately.
There's definitely. This is gonna be a spoiler review.
This is a spoiler review. We'll put it in the title.
Yeah. The plot line with Finn and Rose is pretty unnecessary.
I look at it in a completely different way.
Okay, well, go ahead and say how you feel.
I feel a lot of this movie has both the good guys and the bad guys fucking things up on accident, trying to do the right thing for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Finn and Rose thing. I'm not saying that their plan didn't work, or that their plan did work, or that it actually helped them. It did the opposite. It hurt them. But I think story-wise, that the idea of there's a whole theme of sometimes you shouldn't be a hero. Not sometimes you shouldn't be the all glory seeking hero. Sometimes you need to sit back and assess the plan, or else things are. And they went against orders, and they because they didn't, because of a lack of communication, and on both sides, of course, and they went off to do their own little rogue story. And I just thought it was great that it didn't work out for them, and he actually ruined the original plan that the superiors had, and they should have trusted them with that plan too.
Yeah,
I think it shows that that even these good guys, they fuck up. Kylo Ren does a lot to fuck up the First Order by accident.
Yeah.
But that's also because he's one of the best portrayed mentally unstable people I've seen. Like, he's so realistic.
I don't want to get into Kylo yet. I wanted to still focus on what we were talking about.
But that's how I view the plot.
Right. I look at it as very side questy. It feels to me like they didn't have anything for Finn to do in this movie, so they just kind of wrote this in as an afterthought. It works. It does have some bearing on the plot, and it's not bad. It doesn't really detract from the movie. I just feel as if it was kind of unnecessary. And this is a 2.5-hour movie, and it is a movie where a ton of shit fucking happens.
Oh, yeah.
So cutting that out, I feel like would have been a bit of a benefit. But then Finn wouldn't have had anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I watched it, when Finn is headed for that cannon, I felt like it was a really... Because it made him look like he was about to go out, you know?
Yeah.
I thought that would have been a very underwhelming death for him, because I felt like he really didn't do much in that movie.
I agree. I think none of the... So I understand what you're saying, and I kind of agree, but at the same time, I feel like that was the point, is that Poe fucks up, Finn fucks up, Rose fucks up. Rose, if you haven't seen it, then...
And I get that argument. I get that argument. It's just, it's a little hard for me to get my head into that train of thought. That said, I'm not shit-talking this movie. It's a fantastic fucking movie. I like Empire Strikes Back a bit more. Having rewatched this, I can safely say that. But yeah, this is still my second favorite Star Wars movie. And Star Wars, most of them are really fucking good. So that's saying something.
I had to do the math in my head, and then I realized that the only 3 that people generally regard as, or at least I regard as bad, are the prequels. And even then, I kind of like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I shit talk Return of the Jedi a lot, but it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
It just has some bad parts in it. I like this better than Empire for a few reasons, and some of it is, I admit, it's not all story-based.
Right.
Acting. The acting in this movie is phenomenal. The acting in Empire is 50-50, really.
It's 80s acting.
Yeah. And, Mark Hamill is better in Empire than he was in A New Hope, but that's not saying much. And then in this movie, Mark Hamill gives, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen him give.
Yeah. Well, in A New Hope, the acting is abysmal.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun movie.
It's a great movie. Well, I won't say it's a great movie. I think it's technically a great movie. I don't think that narratively it's that great of a movie.
Yeah.
Empire and Jedi, it all gets better. The acting gets better.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still hokey.
Yeah. And a little insincere.
This movie and Force Awakens did a much better job of making the characters feel more
real.
Yeah.
I think I also think that this and Force Awakens, feel how you will about Force Awakens, I admit I liked Rogue One better than Force Awakens. I liked Empire better than Force Awakens. I will say this, though. Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi, or not Return of the Jedi, Last Jedi. We can't refer to that last movie as just Jedi now.
I know.
It'll be Return and Last, I guess. Anyways, what I was actually talking about was that the humor in these are so much better.
Oh, yeah.
In the original trilogy, there was some good humor. There were some funny parts, but again, you had that hokiness, and the acting and the timing wasn't so great. The prequels, some of the humor is okay, but when the humor is bad, it's not cheesy. It's just straight up bad.
Right.
It's just incredibly unfunny. It's Jar Jar Binks. That's what Jar Jar Binks is. In these movies, they managed to do what George Lucas was trying to do with Jar Jar Binks. You create this cute, ineffectual, humor-based character to just basically be comic relief. Now, in the prequels, we get Jar Jar.
Yeah.
In this, we get the Porgs, but the Porgs don't actually have that much bearing on the plot.
I would compare Porgs more to Ewoks than Jar Jar.
But again, I think Porgs are better done than Ewoks.
Again, yes,
too. Yeah.
I would agree with you. Porgs are better done than Ewoks.
Ewoks are just kind of... There's a little bit of Uncanny Valley, which again is just par for the time, so I'm not gonna focus too much on that.
I don't really like looking at Ewoks, but I'm not gonna get into that.
But then there's also the fact that they're just by far one of the most powerful beings in this galaxy. Evidently, they capture the heroes easily. They defeat they turn the tide of the war.
The Ewoks are key to all this.
I'm not a big fan of the Ewoks. Which is gonna break my brother's heart because he loves the Ewoks. But I think the Porgs in this movie were done great. They were kind of useless like Jar Jar.
Yeah.
But they were, actually cute and actually funny like the Ewoks.
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue whether or not Ewoks are cute. I think they're ugly cute, personally. But
yeah, the characters in this movie feel a lot more real, and that is acting in general. I just feel the standards have gotten better.
Character, you're actually right. Like, with the characters being written more realistic too.
Right, like
that's
Mark
something
Hamill,
that Star Wars had a trouble with even from the start. The prequels,
you can even see
help.
the improvement in Mark Hamill himself. Like, look at Mark Hamill's acting in A New Hope compared to his acting in this movie.
Even look at it in Jedi,
shit.
which, I mean, say what, like, again, I'm not the...
Luke's a badass in Jedi.
Yeah.
Luke's a believable badass in Return of the Jedi.
Luke is probably the best part of Return of the Jedi. Yeah. And he's even better in this movie.
And yeah, he goes... Luke... Yeah, this movie is a fantastic finish for Luke's character. Because we've seen Luke literally go from...
wide-eyed idealist.
Yeah, like this geeky little kid, like... Oh, whoop-de-doo, I'm gonna go on an adventure. From, complete badass in Return of the Jedi up into, like, a wise teacher who was, like, teaching his own, like, little band of Jedis. That's fucking cool.
And then he's become this jaded anti-Jedi.
He's gone through an entire life, you know? It's awesome to see that.
And then he kind of ends on the note that, hey, maybe the Jedi weren't perfect, but that doesn't mean I need to give up.
This movie, I'm not going to say it's unpredictable, because, like...
There's certain beats that are.
When they bring up plot points, you kind of know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But the routes that it does take, like, when they bring up a plot point the first time, you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting it to go there, but I'm along with it.
There was definitely... There was some twist. There was something that... It kind of, like, does the whole anti-red herring for a few things. There's, I mean, the whole, like... The lightsaber turning on Snoke.
Yeah.
I so was expecting something to happen to stop that. And then Kylo straight up murders Snoke. And it hit harder because we saw it coming. If we didn't see it coming... Yeah, I don't think it would have made as much of an impact. Like, because it's like, oh my god, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And you think in the back of your head, no, they wouldn't be showing me this if he was going to do it.
The first time this is why it's important for me to see this movie twice. Because the first time I watched it, there were several scenes. That scene was one of them, where, like, my body was tingling with excitement. And, like, I was leaning forward in my seat. I'm pretty sure I wasn't breathing. Like, yeah, and until the instant the lightsaber turns on and you see that blast, you're really not sure if it's going to go off.
Yeah, because there's like
it's tense as shit.
Do you know what I honestly believe was going to happen? In that moment, I was like, Kylo's going to try to turn on Snoke. Snoke's going to be injured, or and they're going to get away, and Kylo's going to be a good guy with Rey. No, Kylo kills Snoke, fights with Rey, and then stays a bad guy. And that was just... That's the unexpected to me.
Yeah.
That was something I didn't see coming. There are a lot of twists in this, but they're foreshadowed really well. Again, on the second watch, I noticed so much dialogue. God, it's so much more obvious in the second showing that Luke was never on Crate.
the scene with Leia, when she's floating in space. Yeah, the first time I saw it, it was, I don't know why, it was really weird, but the second viewing, it wasn't as bad.
I think I know why.
Why?
Or this is my theory as to why it looked so much bizarre the first time. The first time we were unexpecting it.
Yeah.
And it was right after the reveal that Leia was not only alive, but super Force sensitive.
Yeah.
We got this huge punch, and then we had this kind of a weird visual following it. You and I both knew the second time that Leia was Force sensitive, and that we knew what was going to happen. And so watching it a second time, we're like, you know what? She might move like that through space. It's not that weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it was definitely something that, like, it was just... That's where, like, the shock actually made it worse.
It wasn't.
For the first time.
It wasn't just me, too. It wasn't just us.
Yeah, other people were laughing.
Excuse me. Yeah,
I was more confused than anything.
Our friend who was with us actually turned to me and said, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah, but on a second time, without that shock factor, it wasn't like a weird visual followed by... It is still kind of weird looking, but at the same time, it's weird in the way that... It
makes sense.
Yeah.
It does. It makes sense. Yeah, they don't kill off Leia in this movie. I thought they were going to.
I'm kind of glad they didn't. I'm like Leia. Leia's character has a lot to do. She's kind of passed the torch, so I imagine a diminished role in Return of the Jedi. Or fucking... We don't even know the name of the next one. I just assumed Return of the Jedi because it's the last in the trilogy.
Yeah, that's why I'm super fine with...
Return of the Last Jedi.
I'm super fine with Luke having his end in this movie, because what would he have done besides fight more in the next movie? There was nowhere else for his character to go. Also,
a lot of people are... I was going to bring up a point earlier as to why... I think there are so many negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
These people went in... They grew up with Star Wars.
Right.
And this movie subverts expectations, and they were just so hyped on their own expectations. They wanted Luke to be the hero. They didn't want things to change. It's people who don't like change, and it's funny because this whole movie has a thematic theme of we need to accept change.
Right.
I think the main... if you look at from the good guy's point of view... Both the good guys and the bad guys want change. Luke doesn't at the beginning, and then he comes around. Mm-hmm. The idea with Luke is, like, remember because he hates the Jedi now, but then at the end he kind of has that, oh, well, we were trying to do a good thing, and maybe the Jedi can still be good. It's remember your past, but be okay with change. Because Luke's legacy will always be there. His character may not be in the next movie, but the fact that Luke Skywalker, he's made such an impact. Han has made an impact. All these characters that are dying off have still an impact. They're still in the canon. So you remember them. And of course the bad guys are... Well, Kylo Ren's all like, kill the past, bury it, the entire time.
When you put it that way, this movie is kind of an extremely meta take on how the public views reboots.
I'm going to be completely honest. I completely agree with that assessment. I think that this is... there's some obvious meta jokes and meta, breakdowns of like, hey, the Jedi were, a weird religious sect that was really ineffectual because they lost. Mm-hmm. And they bring that up in universe. But yeah, I think this whole movie is... The theme of change is a huge thing in this one.
You're right.
Similar to how The Force Awakens was like... Remember your childhood, kind of.
Yeah, this
one's like remember, but be okay with change.
The entire point of this movie is kind of an older generation passing the torch to the newer generation. At the end of the final shot of the film is a young child using the Force to grab a broom, and then he looks up to the sky and sees a ship go into light speed, and he's holding a broom like it's a lightsaber. Like, I'm not good with symbolism, but I get what that's trying to say.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think there's a big idea of Star Wars also came about in a more idealistic. Because in the 80s, we had a swing back to conservative. I don't want to say conservative culture as in, like, politically.
This review's getting loaded.
No, I'm just saying, I meant conservative in the form of just.
No, I know what you mean.
Like, as far as film goes, like, we got a lot more happy endings, which is fine. I mean, Star Wars is fun. It's, an escape.
Yeah.
But we're coming back around to cynicism.
Empire even subverted that, though. Empire doesn't really have a happy ending.
It doesn't have a happy ending, but it still has idealistic heroes.
Yes, that's true.
Luke is pretty much... Luke doesn't have a lot of character flaws. He has more of... He's headstrong, but, like, you still love him for it. In this, he has some straight-up personality issues. And I think not only is it a realistic take on it, but it also shows that, like... There's this, like he said, like, oh, we've been idealized and stuff like that. And that's, it has been. People look at Jedi and they're like, they're perfect. And it's no, they weren't.
They're people. And Luke realizes that,
exactly.
that they are people. And he fucked his life up. He fucked not Kenobi.
Ben Solo.
He fucked Ben Solo's life up just because he had a fleeting moment of weakness, because he's a human being.
Exactly. But he had put himself on this pedestal, becoming a Jedi Master.
Right.
As everyone else has in universe and out of universe, and he thought he could do no wrong. So when he had this instinct, he was like, "Oh, I have to stop this. I know right." And then the second he lights his lightsaber, he realizes, "Oh my God, I'm wrong." And that, coupled with, the humiliation the trauma conga line of, having a building dropped on top of him, having his students either killed or join Kylo, which I'm so fucking hyped to see because that means the Knights of Ren, right?
Yeah.
It's Kylo's biker gang, basically. I want to see them in the next episode. That would be so fucking cool. Just to, because, Kylo's in charge now. He can have his friends, They're like his childhood friends that he could... Well, I looked it up, and evidently Kylo Ren was 23 when all that shit went down.
Okay. He's
older than I thought he would be, but...
Yeah.
I'm 22, and I can see myself going fucking nuts if somebody tried to kill me. I don't know. But yeah, I forgot what my original point was, but I said a lot of things.
Yeah. But, Mark Hamill's acting in this, I'd said the other day, I feel as if this role is deserving of an Oscar, honestly. Mm-hmm. It's not going to get recognized for that, but he did a damn good job. Mark Hamill did a fantastic fucking job.
I know that because... not no person that's going to watch this review before the movie, especially since we're putting spoilers in the title.
Yeah.
I wish I could give people advice beforehand, and that would be leave your expectations at the door.
Honestly,
don't expect anything, because if you do, you might... That's what I feel like a lot of fans got disappointed, is they had expectations.
Yeah. If you're afraid of... Okay, look... If you're one of those people that grew up with the original trilogy and you put it on this pedestal and, you're just kind of... If you're afraid of change, I don't think this movie's honestly for you.
Yeah. Then again, I think a lot of people who love Star Wars and didn't want new ones.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of them are coming to the theater anyways. And it's kind of sad. If you're not going to like it, just going in, it's just... I'm not saying that people can hate this film. People can dislike this film. But I'm just saying a lot of the hate I see towards it is because people put, like you said, the original trilogy on this pedestal.
Yeah.
This is not the Star Wars you remember.
It's a lot of people not being okay with the direction that these characters have gone in. I've heard several people say that they had a major problem with how Luke Skywalker was portrayed in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I can see someone having a problem with it, but get over it.
Yeah,
you don't have to watch
Luke's
it.
become cynical in his old age, and it's not done unrealistically. He has a lot of shit happen to him. And he's not angsty either. He's just like, leave me alone, old man, kind of.
Given the story events that take place over the course of his life, what do you think he would do? That would be my question to you.
Do you think he would, be the all-loving hero that... No, Mark Hamill himself had some issues when he read Luke, but then he said over time he began to like the character more.
Yeah.
Because I think... Well, I mean...
At first glance, it is weird, because...
Mark Hamill did want to come back and be the hero Luke Skywalker, but he definitely... Right. See, that's definitely...
But that's just not what...
That's not how life works.
That's not what this trilogy is about.
Oh, no.
That's not what this particular story is about. Luke, Han, and Leia are just not the main characters.
No.
And people have to accept that.
Yeah. They're there to, like that you said, pass the torch.
Yes, they are there to be supplementary characters. They're there because...
They're big in universe.
They still exist. The Resistance is still a big thing, and they are Resistance, like... They're almost legends. They're living legends.
Mm-hmm. And legends do have to die at some point.
Right.
And I think, because
they're people.
People upset with Han and Luke dying, it's like, if you look at it, it's like, well, look at what Han and Luke did in the original trilogy. Without them, and Leia. Without them, that wouldn't have happened. They had their moment of fame. Well, not moment. It was 3 huge movies.
Of course, but what I'm saying is, Han, Luke, and Leia have their trilogy. That's their story.
That's over.
And in most people's opinion, most people that love and grew up with Star Wars, that's a perfect trilogy. And you know what? You still have that.
Yes.
You still are able to go back and relive your childhood whenever you want because you still have that perfect trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pass the torch over to another generation and let these kids have their Star Wars trilogy.
And I'm going to say another thing is...
because this trilogy still presents Han, Luke, and Leia as total fucking badasses.
Yeah. And, they all 3, without them, we wouldn't get the movies we have now.
Mm-hmm.
They've set up the stage. And also, Han did a lot of shit in Force Awakens. Luke made a huge impact in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Without them, it's still, they're still making their last thing.
And they're setting up Leia to have a big part in the 9th movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, she even had a decently sized part in Last Jedi, too.
Yeah. She doesn't really do much.
She's kind of unconscious for most of the movie.
Right, but...
When she's conscious, she's constantly doing shit.
She is an important figure, but in terms of what she contributes to the plot, she doesn't really do much.
That's true. I will say that,
I mean, she is the general, so, I mean, she does need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot my original point, but...
But, what another point I was going to make about, the older Star Wars characters still being in this trilogy, but not being the main characters. I feel as if that is a really big draw for newer Star Wars fans, younger Star Wars fans, to introduce them to the original trilogy as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely think if you never saw Star Wars, and you went back, saw the original trilogy, and then started watching these, you would not have a problem.
Right. Of course, but a lot of people, well, I'm not going to say a lot of people, but a lot of people who are younger
will see these new movies and want to see the older movies.
Right.
I agree too.
Most kids nowadays aren't really going to watch the original Star Wars trilogy because of all of the media that gets released nowadays. kids just don't really have an interest in older movies. Mm-hmm. You know how,
and this will garner their interest in an
unless a child's parents show them Star Wars, or
which we will.
Right, or they accidentally stumble upon it somehow. They wouldn't watch it, but this new Star Wars trilogy
make
ensures
them want to.
That the original trilogy stays relevant.
Yeah, because oh my god, I've talked to my little cousin, and the prequels are what got him into Star Wars.
Right,
and he said he likes
they're shit. They're shit. Yeah, but God damn it, they're important
and they're fun for kids.
Yes.
The thing about the original movies too is kids are a little more accepting to go back and watch an older movie if it has something to do with something they like.
Right. Familiarity is everything.
Yeah. I know my little cousin, the only reason he watched the original trilogy is because he watched the prequel trilogy and wanted more. Mm-hmm. He watched all of Clone Wars. Do we have the light up lightsaber here?
It's in the closet somewhere. Okay, I don't feel like digging it out.
No, I'm not. We don't need it right now. But he used to play with that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever he was at our house, he would play with it. I kind of wanted to give it to him, but his parents didn't want that because it was loud. I can say that, like many people my age, I am a diehard Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I watched the original trilogy back to back on VHS when I was a kid, because I was born after Return of the Jedi. But I watched the original. I got upset with everybody else when George Lucas changed everything. That's different, because he's changing these new movies, they don't change your perfect trilogy. George Lucas did.
Yeah. George Lucas retroactively tried to go back and explain away all of the mystical elements of Star Wars. And make it into... what the fuck were those movies? I'm not going to get into that.
Well, there's actually something I do want to touch on briefly. Okay. There's... Star Wars is not science fiction. And I know that it's science fantasy. And science fantasy is actually very popular. A lot of science fiction shows are actually science fantasy. I'm not going to get into that. But George Lucas tried to make them science fiction.
Right.
I didn't spit in your eye, did I?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to spit when I talked. Anyways, but they're just... he tried to explain it, but the thing is with science fiction, you got to have at least some idea of what you're doing. And George Lucas was like, wouldn't it be cool if it was in the blood? And it was just nobody stopped him.
I really... How are they going to explain that away now? Because are they just going to not talk about it? Because Luke in this new movie, I guess retroactively explains it in that the Force is essentially chi.
Well, it was like that in the original.
It
was.
And
then he yeah, I guess you're right.
It was, and then it retroactively became midi-chlorians.
Well,
and then in this movie they corrected it once again.
Well, there's certain things that, if you think about it, Luke, the last people who talked about midi-chlorians, they're all dead.
That's true.
And well, we bring up the idea that Obi-Wan and Yoda, as Force Ghosts, could definitely tell Luke about the midi-chlorians. Mm-hmm. But maybe the idea of not knowing about it, because they still treat the Force like a mystic thing. Maybe the Jedi Order treating it like it's a scientific issue was an issue in and of itself. It makes sense for Luke not to know.
Right.
And now Luke's gone. Rey's not going to know. It's dead 2 generations over. But, of course... The only way you can explain that Luke knows Darth Sidious's Sith name, he calls him Darth Sidious, mm-hmm. is through Force Ghosts. And Kylo Ren knew the term Sith, which was stopped used. But that's because they've revealed that Snoke has been around since before.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure Snoke learned him a thing or two.
They said Snoke was alive before Phantom Menace.
Okay.
So that he'd seen... the Empire rise.
So Snoke's old as shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not anymore. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of glad they killed him because I don't think there was a single reveal that would have been good enough for people.
I thought the whole like puppet master thing he had going on was pretty cool. It
I do
made
too.
It made him stand out.
I love Snoke as a character.
The Emperor. Yeah, he was really cool, and I do think it's kind of a shame that he won't show up again in the 9th movie because I do feel like he could have done some more pretty cool stuff. Mm-hmm. That said,
it doesn't ruin it.
Yeah, he went out in a really cool way.
Yeah.
And what they are doing with Kylo sets up
a whole different story.
A much more interesting plot than just continuing with Snoke. So yeah, I'm more than okay with it. It's kind of, yeah. It would have been cool if they would continued with Snoke, but I do think this was a better choice.
Yes. I actually like that a lot of people are like talking about how Snoke is the new Emperor, and I did some thinking, and then I looked it up later, and I found out I'm not the only person who thinks this, but I was like, well, the Emperor's all this hammy evilness, right? Mm-hmm. Which is great, because, I mean, Ian McDiarmid does it so well. He's, like, the best part of Revenge of the Sith. But, like, Snoke is so calm, wise, and Snoke, in fact, says that, like, the light side is not something to gawk at. Like, Emperor Palpatine's like, the light side is weak, dark side strong. Snoke knows the balance of the Force, and he knows that it's important. In fact, he chose Kylo a lot, mainly because he's Darth Vader's grandchild, but also because he has that light in conflict in him. Mm-hmm. And he wants to push him over the edge. And he thinks that, like, you know, he knew Rey was... Well, he knew a light side Force would rise to meet Kylo. He just thought it would be Luke instead of Rey. This wisdom that the Emperor was a strategist. He wasn't a wise person. He wasn't, you know, he didn't have the wisdom of Snoke. Mm-hmm. Snoke is an evil Yoda.
Okay.
And he has some inversions as well. He's obviously very tall. Yoda's very short. I mean, they're both incredibly old, wise masters who understand the Force better than the people they work with, or the other people on their side. Because if you notice, Yoda in the prequel trilogy was kind of the only voice of reason. He still said he fucked up, but he was willing to, like, look at it from not, like, the Jedi are always right kind of point of view. Mm-hmm. And Snoke's also thinking the light side is not something to just take for granted. So yeah, like, Snoke being kind of an evil Yoda as opposed to, like, the next Palpatine. He does have things in common with Palpatine, but they're kind of surface stuff. Mm-hmm. So I thought Snoke was kind of an inversion of Yoda, and he died in the second film in this trilogy.
Yeah.
So, and he, instead of the second film that he appeared in the trilogy, I'm sorry, Yoda didn't die in Empire, he died in Jedi. Yeah. Yeah, there's just something about... there's something else I noticed.
What?
Jedi, when they become one with the Force, they die and they fade away. Jedi who don't, you know, just die, as we've seen in other movies. Can the Sith do something similar? Or is it impossible for a dark side user to be one with the Force?
I don't know.
That's just something I thought, because I noticed that they made a mention to show Snoke's dead body still there, like, an hour after he had died.
Yeah.
It was kind of gross, but also kind of funny and weird. Oh, did you want to talk about some other characters specifically? Because you mentioned you wanted to go into Kylo later.
Oh.
And I mentioned to talk about Kylo. Kylo's one of my favorite characters in this trilogy. He's so fucking dynamic.
Okay, so Avatar: The Last Airbender is, in my eyes, that is my perfect trilogy.
Understandably.
They did with Kylo in this movie the same thing that they did with Zuko in season 2 of Avatar. Rey and Kylo is pretty much the same thing that Katara and Zuko were going through, where like she's trying to win him over to their side.
It's
and
like
he's struggling with, you know, his internal conflict of, yes, I know that's the right thing to do, but I'm so conditioned to be evil at this point that I just can't really do that. And
Kylo has done so much in the name of, you know, the dark side that it's hard for him to be like, oh, everything's normal. And he's got he's one of the most, like I said earlier, he's one of the most realistic depictions of like mental instability. And a lot of people, you know, like, because like he's obviously got some stuff going on, the fact that Snoke can, you know, has been screwing with him over time, but it's just like this whole like, he's just been dealt a shit hand for a lot of it. His parents kind of shipped him off to military school, and then his, you know, teacher he thought was trying to kill him. Yeah. And that just pushed him over the edge, because Snoke had been speaking to him and telling him, oh, Luke's going to betray you, Luke's going to do this to you, and then he was like, oh my god, he's right. Yeah. So, I'm sure once Kylo, you know, pretty much thought he killed Luke Skywalker, Luke's other apprentices came after Kylo. Yeah, they make Kylo, like, it's such a slippery slope for him. Yeah. He doesn't want to kill Han, and he does.
When he does finally kill Snoke, you think that, you know, the light side has won and he's on their team now. But no. With Snoke out of the way, he can seize power, and that's...
I like that. I love how that it's like... It's kind of like...
And he doesn't...
A reality kicks in kind of moment, like... Oh, wait, that doesn't change what he's done and that he's still conflicted.
And there's part of him in there that's still good, because he doesn't want to go against Rey. He wants Rey to join him, because he now has this connection with Rey. And she's, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first person that has ever treated him like a friend.
Yeah, well, yeah. Besides the ones he probably slaughtered.
Yeah.
But again, I'm sure they were coming after him too. But a big thing is, you look at like a lot of characters in the series, you see Anakin, his whole thing, if we look at it from, if we don't look over the cringy stuff, and we just look at like his journey, he did all the shitty things he did out of love, because he thought he could like protect Padme, and then once Padme died, he had just been this cold, bitter person, and he didn't kill the Emperor only because he didn't think he could for so long, and then eventually he just kind of became satiated in his place. Palpatine was drunk on, you know, the dark side, which, again, somebody drunk on power and being evil is not something unrealistic.
Yeah, he's
not sympathetic, but at the same time
he's just sadistic.
Yeah. And there are people like that, unfortunately, in the world. Hux, we'll talk about him a little more later, or soon. But him specifically, I noticed like his motivations. He's got this like very like, he's like a Nazi. He believes that it's like survival of the fittest, kind of like the First Order is keeping everything ordered. The weak don't deserve to live, that kind of thing. And that, again, that's conditioning, and that's also I heard in supplementary materials that I really do want to read because they're starting to interest me. That Hux was, you know, originally a sweet boy who his father was a First Order, you know, one of the First Order guys, and he kind of conditioned him and he physically beat him into becoming this, like... And then some interesting stuff happens with his father that I don't want to say on here because it's a spoiler for a different thing. Okay. But I'll tell you because I'm sure you, unless you want to read the books.
Not really. Anyway, now he's getting his ass beat by Kylo. So,
but Kylo Ren is probably the only person I've seen in the entire Star Wars thing, like the entire Star Wars. They tried to do this with Anakin, but it kind of fell flat. But Kylo truly believes the dark side is morally correct. Mm-hmm. He truly believes he's doing the right thing. And Hux kind of believes that, but Hux is a little more, you know, he's less sympathetic because of it. Kylo doesn't know what's right to do. He doesn't know what he should do. he idolizes his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Snoke has conditioned him, kind of seduced him to the dark side, but as soon as he was actually in, Snoke, tossed him around like a puppet, and he got conflicted. He's like, I want to make him proud, but I also hate him. And so Kylo has all these, he's just had a shitty life, and he doesn't know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that makes him more compelling, and that gives him such an obvious weakness that's both realistic, but also, it gives the writers a reason for him to lose.
Yeah.
But it's just, or turn good, even. I still don't know what they're going to do with the character. He's unpredictable, but it's in a way that, is believable and is not just he's crazy. He's honestly, been pushed around. He's not been driven mad exactly. He's still, his motivations are still understandable. Did you want to say anything specific about Kylo?
Just that. Yeah, he is. Just that. Yeah, he is a very interesting character. I wasn't really much of a fan of him in Force Awakens. Honestly, he was just.
He was a Darth Vader wannabe, which
yeah,
in a meta sense too, because they were honestly trying to show us, hey, look, we have a new Darth Vader. Just kidding.
Yeah.
He's trying to fill these shoes he can't.
I got where they were going with it.
But it wasn't enough to really...
Yes. I didn't necessarily have any complaints with his character. It just wasn't enough to get me interested in him. Mm-hmm. But this movie absolutely provided me with more than enough to interest me in his character.
He's my favorite of the new trilogy, I can say that.
I can say that too. I don't really give a shit about Finn.
I want to actually go into Finn's character and what I like about him.
Yeah.
He's not
a bad character.
I like Finn. I'm glad that he survived this one.
I am too, because I want them to do something with him.
I think they are building up to do something with Finn, and
I think he is a likable character. They just haven't done much with him.
I think Finn's big thing is Finn has got the purest heart out of anybody in that.
He does. I can see that.
He left the First Order because he saw war and he hated it. And now he's not doing so great as a resistance fighter. But he's still a hero. He's still doing heroic things, but he doesn't like being part of this war. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to be a soldier because it's not in him to think like that. Poe's different. Poe's not only a soldier, but he's like a war hero kind of. But they get along because
his answer to everything is blow something up.
Yeah, but he I think this movie gave him much needed development.
Oh yeah,
where he's become he's becoming Leia's successor.
He's another one of those characters that he didn't really have much to do in Force Awakens.
He was super cool, but that's it.
He was cool, but he was just his entire character was an X-wing fighter.
Yeah, they were going to kill him off in Force Awakens, and I'm glad they didn't.
I'm glad they didn't too. Yes,
in this movie, we see him become.
This was the very first Star Wars movie I've ever seen where I was watching someone in an X-wing, and the physics of the maneuvers they were doing, I was like, I see how that works, and I'm impressed.
Especially with the kickback.
Yes,
that was really fun.
Because in every other Star Wars dogfight, it's just kind of ships flying around random directions shooting each other. There's no real physics to it, but this. Poe Dameron's flying is the first time where I can say, damn, that's a good pilot.
Yeah. Kylo's a great pilot, too, but that's kind of a in-your-blood kind of thing, I'm guessing, with the Star Wars, because every Skywalker is going to be a good... And a lot of people are complaining that, with Luke dead and Rey not being his daughter, we're ending the whole Skywalker
what the
thing.
Fuck ever.
And it's excuse me, Ben Solo is actually a Skywalker if you think about it.
Yeah.
He's still continuing that family lineage if that's what you really care about.
Yeah.
It's not what this new trilogy is about.
But I'm glad that Rey's parents are just some fucking douchebags that sold her off as a baby.
There's a fan theory going on that you meet her parents in Battlefront 2, but it
What?
doesn't match the description that Kylo said. So part of me thinks that Kylo can either be lying or he's telling the truth. Either way, I don't think Rey's parents are going to be established characters, which is good because, hey, the galaxy's big. We already have one lineage character in Kylo. Yeah. And I mean, the fact that he's a lineage character is very important to the plot.
I don't think that every fucking character needs to be related to some other important character.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's okay that Rey's parents aren't fucking Jedi or whatever the fuck you wanted them to be.
In fact, Luke being the chosen one was a huge thing. They said in recent interviews that they want Rey to be the unchosen one, the unlikely hero that is truly unlikely. Because Luke, when we meet him, he's just a farm boy, but then when we learn of his past, it's like, oh, it almost seems inevitable that he would...
And if Kylo Ren does eventually get won back over to the light side, he can be their chosen one, and Rey can be the one that...
Who, saved Kylo.
Exactly.
I think Rey obviously got a lot of development in this one.
Mm-hmm. Rey and Luke's arc on the island is I think that's the most interesting part of the movie.
It's funny because it's kind of like Empire, but it took what Empire did and, in my opinion, made it a little better with more development. And I think
You mean with Luke and Yoda?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
And then
because when Luke and Yoda are training,
it's very physical.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot of backstory, but
there's so little, but there's not the whole Luke and the Force, the weird shit. But it works for the movie.
Yeah, with Last Jedi, every scene advances the plot.
Yeah,
even if it is Finn and Rose's little side quest. You know, there's still something happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Finn and Rose did a lot. It did change things for the universe.
Yes.
And it did change things for the plot. It just didn't end up the way you would expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
And it made less of an impact, but in the same way that was, again, like I said, kind of...
Every scene in this movie, it does advance the plot. This is, again, a 2.5 hour movie.
Where 4 hours worth of content happens, it feels like.
Yeah.
There's so much that go... there's a part where, it feels like the third act ended. It feels like there's 4 acts to this movie.
Yeah. The first time I watched it, I thought the movie was about to end. And then they get to the fucking salt planet. And I was like, oh shit, there's still a climax ready to happen.
When I was I thought that too, and then as soon as they were like, it's a small planet called Crate, and I remembered people losing their shit over Crate, the new planet in the trailer, and I was like, and then I remembered all the trailer scenes, and I was like, oh shit, the movie's not even close to being over. We have a huge fight coming.
Yeah,
and I didn't even think about it because it feels like this movie has 2 climaxes,
and it's fucking. I was hyped too. As soon as I realized that there was still more to the movie, I was hyped.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't want it to end.
That's something even movies I like towards the end, I'm like, all right, let's.
Even the second time, the first time we came out, I said to you, I felt like this movie was an hour and a half long. Mm-hmm. I still felt that way the second time. It does not feel like a 2.5 hour movie at all.
No, but once you look back and see how much shit happened, it becomes kind of understandable.
It does.
It's quick paced without being rushed.
Yeah,
they take just as much time, but not any more than that.
Perfectly paced movie. Perfectly.
I will admit, we were gonna watch Force Awakens before this, and I'm kind of glad we didn't.
Yeah.
Because
I've seen it enough times.
I'm a little tired from watching Return of the Jedi, or Last Jedi does exhaust me, but it's just to the point of exhaustion.
It feels like you went on a fucking journey.
Yeah.
Which is how a great Star Wars film should make you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do want to like go over a few other characters. Well, I mean,
Okay.
Like I said, Rey's development was pretty great in this film, and of course it was. I mean, the next movie's got to have her be, like, Return of the Jedi Luke levels.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Maybe that's the subversion. We'll see. But she's definitely started off as that kind of wide-eyed idealist like Luke did.
Mm-hmm.
She was even like adorkable in a lot of scenes in Force Awakens. And in this one, she kind of sees Luke's parts, and then but she also sees the hypocrisy in Luke. She also sees, she changes Luke's mind, and he kind of like changes her mind a little bit. And she's got this like, I will change Kylo through the entire thing, and then she finally gives up on Kylo in the last scene. And so I think that'll be kind of interesting to see her kind of where she's going to go from there. If she's going to think that Kylo can be saved again, or if it's... Because she's kind of at the point where it can go either way.
Yeah.
And then we've got... I'm trying to think of other characters and what they're going to be. Yeah, like I said, I feel like they're building up Finn to finally become the hero he was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because Finn has kind of been marked kind of as a coward, but also because he doesn't want to kill people, which is not cowardly. It's the fact that he doesn't want to die, even though there's things that he should do that are... it's kind of... He's like a coward, but not in the sense of a coward. He's more of like the straight man.
Yeah.
But also with a good heart. Poe kind of is a little removed. Because, if you read the stuff, his like parents were in the Republic, I think. They were very, like... They were soldiers.
Okay.
And he was raised kind of in that vein. Although he didn't want to be just a soldier. He wanted to fight the First Order. He didn't want to just be on the sidelines with the rest of the New Republic. He wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like... It'll be interesting to see what Rose does in the next movie.
Definitely.
I definitely feel like... Oh, DJ's coming back.
Who?
DJ, the guy who sold him out.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely coming back because Benicio del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
He was originally supposed to play Darth Maul, like his voice, but most of his lines got cut and he quit. Now he came back to Star Wars and he's, a much bigger character, of course. And
yeah.
Knowing Benicio del Toro, you don't just, cut his lines. Yeah, he's, DJ's definitely going to come back. General Hux is still here. Phasma's probably dead. Part of me was like, oh, she kind of disappeared off screen. She's not going to die. And then I realized that most people in Star Wars die that way.
Mm-hmm.
They die in very Disney villain death ways.
I don't think that Phasma's dead. Or at least, I hope that Phasma's not dead. Because Phasma has literally done fucking nothing. I really want...
She's the new Boba Fett, which is kind of funny, because, like, a lot of people were saying, oh, she's the new cool character like Boba Fett, and it's like, yeah, just like Boba Fett, she has nothing.
Yeah.
Well, she has one cool fucking battle, and that's it. Although, I will say, again, I'm not going to go into the books, but there's a book called Phasma.
Yeah.
And she is so fucking interesting in that, but of course, we don't get to see it in the movies, and that kind of sucks. And I kind of understand, but at the same time, if this is their take on like the meta part, I think this is the first time where being meta about it in this, that's helped with the story up until this point, and I think it actually hurt the story to take this cool character that you give little hints about, and played by, I think her name's Gwendolyn Christie. She's a great actress. Super tall, and that's probably why they casted her, so she can go toe to toe. There's a good chance that they did kill her off because the producers said that they never want her face to be revealed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that she doesn't look like the actress underneath, like canon-wise, and it's not really a spoiler for the book, but they mentioned in the book that nobody in the First Order has seen her face.
Okay.
No one currently in the First Order. Besides probably Snoke. Or maybe he didn't recruit her. Maybe she got recruited.
Yeah.
I haven't read this book. I just know a few spoilers from it. I just really wanted to talk about the characters' development and why I want to see where they're at next time. I want to see where Hux goes too. I had this little theory that Hux was going to form his own First Order.
Yeah,
the Second Order,
so too.
if you will, and go against Kylo.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see a civil war brewing in the First Order,
and that would bring them on terms with. The Resistance could take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be something different for the Star Wars well, not the universe as a whole, but for the movies to do a civil war like that. Does not trade federations.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there anything you'd like to add? Because I'm pretty much spent on explaining my love for this movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done talking about it. What? Okay. What?
I just wanted to say I want a pet porg really bad.
Okay. Yeah. I can see, the more I think about it, I can see why people are upset. I will not agree with those people, but I can see where they're coming from. But they're not going into this movie with the correct mindset.
Mm-hmm. Like Luke says in the trailer. Oh, sorry.
What? Go ahead.
This is not going to go the way you think.
Yeah. I know from personal experience because, like I said, Avatar was always my perfect trilogy. And when Legend of Korra came out, I felt like it was completely fucking unnecessary. And I really wouldn't even give it a chance for a long time. I still feel like it's unnecessary, but people enjoy it, and I can objectively say that it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see if you grew up with the original Star Wars trilogy thinking that this new sequel series is unnecessary, and even having some problems with it. But you have to realize that those are only personal problems because of your nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact that, like you said, unnecessary is kind of like a sliding scale, but there is a good reason that these movies exist for the younger generation.
Exactly. They are not made for you. They are unnecessary, but they're only unnecessary to you because, they're not made for you. They're made for a younger generation. And to them, these movies are necessary.
It's funny because people look at Star Wars and they just think it's so iconic. It is probably the most iconic, film franchise of all time. Or one of the most iconic franchises of all time. Stories of all time. Almost everybody knows it. But we're noticing with the younger generation that people are not knowing it and they're not exploring it. And the thought that Star Wars will one day, not be the relevant pop culture monster it is.
There hadn't been a Star Wars movie since 2005?
Yeah, it's
10
been a
years.
long time.
10 years. That's a long time.
I'd be fine if they just kept continuing it every 10 years.
That's an entire generation of children that did not have Star Wars. Therefore, it just wasn't something that interested them.
So, yeah, I definitely think that people think Star Wars is invincible, but it just isn't.
It's not.
Everything
time
else
can kill Star Wars. If there is time where no Star Wars movies are coming out, not even no Star Wars movies, if there's a time where Star Wars movies consistently become bad even, the
prequels almost killed Star Wars.
Yeah. People lost interest. The decline in sales from episode 1, 2, and 3, you can see the scale slide down really quick.
But
because after
I know it's not
episode
gonna work like this, but I think Disney should just hold on to the rights and then every decade just release another trilogy.
Yeah.
It would work.
It would.
Although Well, then again, the original movies, as well as even the prequels, were spaced out a little more.
Yeah, I do feel like we're going to have kind of an influx of Star Wars movies, considering that they're doing a main series every other year.
Part of me is worried we're going to get a really bad one.
Yeah.
And people are going to be like, is this the death of Star Wars? And
well,
it's
like,
what? No, it survived the prequels.
You know what? I don't know.
That's true.
To be honest, I don't fucking know.
We can't.
Because it's Disney, and they have... I don't know how the fuck they do it, but with these, like, really huge series, they have somehow just a really good track record as of recently.
I think they have some of the best people, and I think they listen to critical responses
Disney
really well.
knows how to please their fan base while still taking
necessary risks.
Yes, exactly.
Funny that you bring that up, because like, why did people hate the prequels? Is because it felt like it was completely detached from the other Star Wars, and it felt like it was this subpar story that was just kind of trying to explain.
Yeah, if you were to tell me that the prequels had nothing to do with the original trilogy.
Oh, not nothing to do. I'm saying more. Oh, are you? Oh,
I wasn't done.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you were to tell me that the prequels had nothing to do with the original trilogy, and you were to just like change a few buzzwords around, yeah, I'd have no indication.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like it. Yeah, like a lot of people had issues with that because it felt like it wasn't a connection. I think that's why Revenge of the Sith is still regarded as the best prequel. Has a lot of that.
Revenge of the Sith is the only one I can say is a necessary story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
The other two prequel movies are just, why the fuck do they exist?
Exactly.
Because it needed to be a trilogy, I guess.
Because it rhymes. But like...
I still don't like Revenge of the Sith, personally, but yes, I can see the need for that being a film.
And another thing is the fact that... what was I going to say? Oh, but then The Force Awakens comes out. Why do people love it? Because it feels like a Star Wars movie. Why do people critique it?
Being too similar to New Hope.
Yeah. So what did they do with this one? Everyone was like, oh, this is going to be the Empire Strikes Back of this. They subvert so much.
Yeah.
But they still keep it within that family. Disney can listen to these responses and make appropriate changes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge DC fan. People have known that, and I'm not going to go into spoiler territory here, but it took WB forever to listen to Critical Response and make Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have made too many changes in Justice League. I still love Justice League, but I thought
Justice League was a fine movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's flawed. I can say that, but I think the issues is WB took it. The response is too far, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They were like, let's make it so it's like a mindless popcorn flick, because that's what people want, and it's like, not really.
That might be what. That's not what DC fans wanted.
No.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
That is usually what people want.
I liked Justice League, but it definitely felt like they were trying so hard to play it safe to the point where it hurt them.
Right. It did.
Wonder Woman is a great example of they can do it right. It's just
because Wonder Woman does feel like a darker, more serious film,
but it has levity.
Yes, it still.
It has heart.
It has heart, and it has humor at the right moments.
Mm-hmm.
Justice League kind of, they did go a little overboard with the humor, and it is more of a popcorn flick. It doesn't really have anything to say. Wonder Woman had something to say, and I feel like that is the appeal of DC.
And Batman v Superman had too much to say.
Right.
Like, you can overdo it, and
that's not the appeal of Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel is supposed to just be popcorn flicks. DC, I feel like it...
Marvel still does a lot of movies that have saying things to say, too.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Like,
I'm not going to say...
And stuff like that.
Of course. But DC, I just feel like
there's no consistency.
That's true, but I feel like in order to make a good DC movie, you do have to
have something to say.
Exactly, because those characters, I don't want to say they're more important than Marvel characters.
Of course, I know what you mean.
That's not the right terminology, but I would say they're more iconic. They're more historically important. They mean more in pop culture.
Marvel is definitely from the viewpoint of humans trying to become gods. They're relatable characters. The characterization is the big part. DC has always been, in the comics even, the one to raise the big questions and to look at it from a much larger perspective and less relatable, but, more almost, I want to say philosophical, but Zack Snyder, please stop.
The point being, Disney knows what they're doing with their properties, and we have the evidence of what happens when another company doesn't know what the fuck they're doing with their property.
I don't blame DC, I blame WB.
It's not DC's fault. DC has nothing to do with these movies, really. It's WB.
Yeah, it's definitely WB.
If the rights to those DC characters had been given over to someone like Disney, we'd probably be getting really good fucking DC movies.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people think like if Disney bought, DC or WB or whatever, that we would be getting DC movies that are like Marvel. But we just saw The Last Jedi, and I would love a DC film with that amount of everything it had.
The new Star Wars movies are not like Marvel movies.
No, they're not. I've heard some people say that they're too much like Marvel movies, and I'm like,
how?
I think I realize what
they're
it is.
Big budget blockbusters, but it's
always been that.
There's a fuck ton of those every year.
And Star Wars has always been a big budget blockbuster. Well, except for A New Hope, but that was a low budget blockbuster.
Right. When has Star Wars not been a big budget blockbuster? And there are tons of other big budget blockbusters that come out every year that aren't fucking Star Wars and Marvel.
And I actually think I know why people compare it too much to Marvel. And that's because Marvel does one thing really well, and that's because of Joss Whedon had that impact. It's the realistic, funny dialogue.
Right.
We get that in Star Wars now, which I'm okay with, but that's one little thing. You know what I mean?
Why are people not okay with that though? Because that's really how people talk. People do say jokes every now and then.
Yeah, and they say it like that.
I don't understand how that could possibly take somebody out of it. Because I think that's real.
I think it's like a case of reality is unrealistic. I know that doesn't make sense, but I'm saying like there's a lot of things that people expect in a movie that when you subvert it, they're like, that's not right. And it's like, well, that's how it happens in real life. Some people get this. I definitely think that a newer generation, I think you and I are at the split. Mm-hmm. I think people who are older than us are more likely to have issues with these movies. People who are younger with us are going to roll with it. I think people our age are the split.
Yeah, when you go back and watch older movies, you do kind of see
unrealistic dialogue.
Yeah, there's a lot of that character said that because it's in the script. Mm-hmm. Not that character said that because that's what that character's thinking.
Mm-hmm. I will say Star Wars does have a little bit of that, like, realistic dialogue. I mean, Han Solo has got great...
in some scenes it does.
Han Solo has great dialogue, mainly because Harrison Ford refused to follow the script.
Yeah.
But,
a lot of the really good dialogue in Star Wars is from Han.
I will say, one bit of dialogue that people have run forward and back with saying how fucking stupid it is and how badly acted it is, and it is badly acted. Mark Hamill got so much better, but in A New Hope, it's so cringy. But for me, it's really realistic, because Luke's a whiny teenager. Mm-hmm. And when he goes, but we were gonna go to the Tashi station for the power converters.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a, like...
But I was gonna go down to Tashi station to get more power converters.
It's like, but I was supposed to go to the mall this weekend. Like, it's a whiny teenager thing. And it's realistic.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of the dialogue. I was like, this is annoying. but Luke is meant to be annoying, or at least.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a whiny little shit in that movie. Because he's supposed to go through that journey and become something more.
I think Star Wars is one of those series, too, that, like... Okay, I'm gonna cut this short. I was gonna go into, like, the fact that so many characters say no over the series really dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's parts where it makes sense. Whenever Luke says no, when Ben dies, when, you know... And Kylo said no in this new one when he realized he had been tricked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like... Those work. And then you get every single time Darth Vader has said no in the remaster and in Revenge of the Sith, and it's cringy as hell. And it's funny because, like, it's usually cringy in movies.
Mm-hmm.
But Star Wars has done it right a few times.
Yeah. They have.
That was kind of a random thought I had. Sorry. I'm done, I promise. I said I was done like 3 times during this review. There's a lot to talk about with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whew.
Alright, so yeah, you pretty much got the gist of how we feel. We liked it. It was pretty good. Bye.